Hi guys, welcome back to the show. And I'm very excited to be here on this beautiful, Wednesday morning. However, we're going to be having a lot of conversation. So make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to stay tuned to relaxing and important conversation right here on Relax Radio. All right. Now, before we actually head into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact be a part of the show. All you need to do is just text me on 078 share your thoughts, share your opinions, because that will be absolutely amazing as well. All right. Now, I want to very quickly talk to you about how the situation in Afghanistan is in fact affecting the whole world. All right. But obviously, before we get into that, before we get into how the situation in Afghanistan is going to affect the whole world, I want to very quickly talk to you about all of these different things that are happening in the world. Okay, so right now we basically have so many things that are happening, and before we actually head into that conversation, I want to very quickly tell you that you can get in touch with me. All you need to do is just text me or call me on 078 share your thoughts, share your opinions, because that will be absolutely amazing as well. Okay, and something else that you need to keep in mind, something else that you need to make sure that you're always informed and updated about, is Relax Radio, because we give you the very latest information, we give you the very latest news, and we make sure that you always have the best of news and best of information to actually make sure that you know what is going on in the world. All right, so don't forget to go follow us on our socials, don't forget to go like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, to essentially make sure that you're always informed and updated about the very latest that happens all over the United Kingdom and all over the world as well. And don't forget to be a part of this show by downloading our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store as well. That way you can actually make sure that you're always informed and updated about everything that happens in the United Kingdom, right? Now, I want to very quickly talk to you about, the situation that is happening in Afghanistan and what exactly it means for all of us, and basically how that is going to affect the rest of this world. All right. Now, right now, we know that the Taliban is in control in Afghanistan. We know that so many different things are happening in Afghanistan as well. But also at the same time, we're aware that there are so many people out there, that there are so many Afghan nationals that are evacuating, or they're fleeing Afghanistan because they want to break free from this from the tyrannous regime of basically the Taliban, right? And essentially, we know that when the Taliban took control, this actually meant that a lot of us, or that actually meant a lot of people in Afghanistan actually had to live according to the rules and regulations that they consider are mainframes, or within the mainframes of the Islamic law, right? And this also brought about a lot of attention because people are very concerned with regard to the situation of Afghan nationals, Afghan women, if I might put it that way, right? Because they need to make sure that the women in these countries, are in fact much safe. All right. However, now we're going to head into a small break, and after that, we will be back to continue more of this. But until then, make sure that you stay tuned, because I will be back right after this break to continue this conversation with you.
Cycling in London is not child's play. How to be a better cyclist. Listen to my show, only on Relax Radio. I'm Kevin. Join me every Thursday, 5 p.m. Look forward to seeing you.
Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio, and I'm super, super excited to be here because we're talking about the very latest that is happening in Afghanistan, right? And the reason it's important to have this conversation is because there's so much that we need to discuss. There's so much of steps that we need to take as the world to essentially make sure that people who live in Afghanistan actually have a much better situation than what they're currently going through, right? And the reason we actually want to talk about this, or the reason I want to talk about this and share my thoughts and opinions with you essentially, is because I want to make sure that you're always informed and updated about the very latest that happens, not just here in the United Kingdom, but in fact all over the world as well, right? Because it's important for you to understand that the chaos in Afghanistan is not something that's only going to affect Afghanistan, right? It's going to affect the United Kingdom, it's going to affect the United States, it's going to affect so much of people all over the world, especially because they know that, especially because this situation is definitely going to have a lot of impact on the rest of the world, right? Especially in terms of countries that trade with Afghanistan, especially in terms of countries, and all of the countries in the world actually maintain some form of relationship with Afghanistan as well, right? So this is in fact going to be a really big problem. However, before we head into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, get in touch with me. You can text me or call me on 078-52473473. Feel free to share your thoughts, share your opinions, because I would love to hear what you have to say with regard to what is going on in the world. All right. So don't be afraid to share your thoughts and share your opinions, because Relax Radio is all about conversation. It's about hearing your thoughts and hearing your opinions with regard to what we are discussing. So essentially, to make sure that you know about what is happening in the world and that we are listening to you and your thoughts, the best thing for you to do is to get in touch with us. And obviously, don't forget to go like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And don't forget to go, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because that's going to make it absolutely amazing. And that's actually going to make sure that you are always updated on the very latest that happens in terms of all of the news that happens in the world, right? And I'm talking science, sports, health, technology, whatever it is you want to be informed about, we're going to make sure that you're informed about all of it. All right. And obviously, don't forget to go subscribe to our YouTube channel either, because all of the things that we talk about are there. So don't forget to do that. And now let's actually head into our conversation, because obviously we still have a lot more we have a lot more to share with regard to what is happening around the world in terms of Afghanistan, right? So one of the biggest problems that I have, or one of the biggest issues that a lot of people seem to have, is the fact that women aren't essentially going to have rights, right? And the reason that people are so worried about this is because, before Taliban took control of Afghanistan, women could go to school, they could study, they could work, they could, they had a certain sense of freedom. However, right now, all of the freedom that these women are going to have are in fact going to be restricted. They're not going to have that freedom, and they will essentially have to, as soon as Taliban took control of Afghanistan, the first thing they had to do was, they had to fully cover themselves up, right? They had to, they had to make sure that no part of their bodies were actually be able to be seen. And I'm talking about, their hands, right? Things like that actually happened, right? And they were in fact asked to wear a full face burqa, or even, a full face burqa, basically to make sure that, they would be safe and that nothing would happen to them. All right. So that is essentially how it is like right now in Afghanistan. And because, that's such a huge problem, it is in fact very dangerous, and it's in fact very scary to be alive in that part of the world. And if you didn't see the footage, you probably saw how many people actually were trying to flee, and how many people have tried to get into those planes and try to get out of Afghanistan as much as they could. Right. So that is important to keep in mind. Now, something else that we obviously need to talk about, I want to actually divert your attention to the United Kingdom, right? Because right now we are talking about, ever since the IPCC report got released, we spoke about climate change. We spoke about how climate change actually affects a lot of people in the world, right? And we've already seen how it affects people as well. Now, the United Kingdom government actually has a plan to make sure that all of the houses, or rather 3 million households in the United Kingdom, will in fact be powered by hydrogen when they, essentially, or rather by 2030, right? Because what they're trying to do is, ever since this IPCC report was published, this committee has essentially asked leaders across the world to take drastic measures to make sure that people are safe, to make sure people's lives are safe, and to make sure that they can do whatever they can to protect the planet. So essentially, to protect the planet, you need to take these measures. And the way you can actually move about and take these measures is by making sure you have a hydrogen economy, right? And the reason that's important is because the government is actually hoping to attract about 4 billion, if I'm not mistaken. They're hoping to attract about 4 billion, 4 billion pounds to essentially make sure that they can replace fossil fuel with hydrogen, right? And what they're planning to do is all of these households that use fossil fuels for heating and for cooking, they're actually going to make sure that these households will now use hydrogen instead of hydrogen-based electricity, right? And they're going to use it for heating, they're going to use it for cooking, and they're trying to make sure that about 3 million households could actually use it. All right. And even after they recently published the long-awaited plans for the United Kingdom-wide hydrogen economy, and through that, they're actually saying that by 2050 they could actually create about 13 billion pounds in terms of income, and also 100,000 new jobs by 2050. So that is the future in terms of the climate, in terms of making sure we have a green environment, green change and whatnot. All right. Now make sure you stay tuned, because I will be back in a few minutes to actually keep talking to you about greenwashing, about the newest plans that the United Kingdom has with regard to hydrogen heating. So until then, make sure you stay tuned, because I will be back in a few minutes.